Hey, welcome to our module 12 on accounting. And this is just a brief intro video. For those of you who are just climbing into this and have already taken perhaps your introduction to financial accounting or managerial accounting, well, quite frankly, a lot of what's in this accounting module may be a little bit of a review for you. And for those of you who have yet to take any accounting classes or perhaps have very little interest in accounting whatsoever, you may be asking yourself, oh man, why do I have to have this accounting module? I mean, my goodness, I've never really enjoyed math. I was hoping that we wouldn't have to deal with this. And quite frankly, there's a couple of reasons why I think this module is really important, especially if you're a business major, but even, quite frankly, if you're not a business major. And that is, to put it briefly, accounting is important for the same reason that having a driver's license in the Bay Area is important. Now, if you think about this for just a second, why do I need a driver's license in the Bay Area? Well, unless you live in San Francisco, quite frankly, it's just really hard to live life without a driver's license and access to a car. Because it means, you can live that way, and sometimes we do, but it's really inconvenient, right? Because it means you have to rely upon public transit, like buses and BART and those kinds of things, and that's scheduled, somebody else's schedule, right? Or you're calling up friends and you're getting rides from friends, and it means you're always relying on someone else, or you're using Uber and Lyft, and that gets really expensive in a hurry, right? And my point is simply this: to get around, at least here in the Bay Area, and it may not be true in other parts of the country, but especially here, if you don't have a driver's license, you're always relying upon someone else. And this is the main reason I always thought it was important to get a good accounting education, so that I'm not relying on someone else to tell me, hey, is the company doing okay? What's our profitability look like? Is our product doing better than our competitors in the market? All those kinds of things. Do we have enough capital to expand into another country? Are we doing okay? I didn't want to ever have to rely on someone else to analyze and parse the information and communicate it to me. I wanted to be able to do it myself, right? For the same reason that I wanted to be able to rely upon myself to get around. And you can see how important this is as a skill in business, much less, well, wherever you end up working, right? Is my company doing okay? Should I really thinking about finding another job? What's the prospects look like for the next couple of years for my life, my career, my income, my job prospects, all those kinds of things. So that's just a simple reason why I think this module is really, really important as an introduction to accounting as a part of the business skill set. All right. Now, as you may know, this is our second to last module in this class, and the next module is on finance. And for many people, you look at the topics of accounting and finance and say, well, aren't they kind of the same thing? I mean, they both deal with money, right? And while that's true, accounting and finance are two very, very, very different disciplines. I know that intimately because I was both an accounting and a finance major in my undergrad work. And so the best way for me to describe this, I guess, is accounting looks backwards and finance looks forward. Okay, so accounting looks backwards. I mean, accounting looks historically at events that have already happened, right? And so we can describe them financially, numerically, with numbers, right? And whereas finance looks forward into the future and says, hey, if we're really going to expand into the Far East or create a new product or fix the broken roof on the factory, how much money, how much capital will we need in the future to do all those projects? And I got to make sure, if I'm in finance, that we have sufficient capital ready in the future when we want to do those things, right? Whereas accounting, and that's really the topic of this module, whereas accounting looks backwards to say, what do the numbers show? And most importantly, not only what do the numbers show, but what are the stories behind the numbers? What do I mean by that? Well, Hey, compared to the year before, our revenue is up. What's the stories behind why our revenue is up? And typically there will be several stories why our revenue is up, and many times there are names and faces attached to those stories, right? Is it because our sales department has done a really good job? Is it because there's a great appetite for our products in the market? But why is it, right? What's the story behind the numbers? And that's one of the things we talk about in this module is not only what do the numbers say and how do we understand these numbers, but what are the stories behind those numbers and how should we understand those in preparation for this current period as well as maybe the quarter or the year ahead of us as we look forward to how we're doing these things. So you will get a flavor for this in the module. You will get an introduction to taking a look at some of the standard financial statements that companies typically publish and how do I basically understand these kinds of things, right? This is a pretty important module. And just as a side note, I would note to you, if you are interested in accounting, if you are an accounting major or you're getting your accounting certificate here at College of Marin, one of the wonderful things about the world of accounting is that if you're a good accountant, I can guarantee you lifetime employment for the rest of your career. And that's primarily because of some legislation that was passed in the 2000s called the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, or SOX. Sarbanes-Oxley was passed as a result of some pretty bad examples of accounting fraud that took place here in the United States in the early 2000s. As a result, the accounting industry has exponentially grown, and it's created a need for accountants that never seems to be satisfied. Truly, if you are a good accountant, I can guarantee you will always have a job and job opportunities here in the United States primarily because of Sarbanes-Oxley. So that's our introduction to this module. I hope you enjoy it. I do want to let you know also, this module number 12 in accounting, has your second and last case study assigned to you. And so you want to look at that carefully. That case study looks at the example of, well, this current company, Macy's, that is very well known to all of us, right? One of the staples in retail, and looks at Macy's in the here and now, right? Macy's as it tries to recover from the COVID-19 lockdown and many of the consequences of that, as well as even before the pandemic, retail was under a great deal of pressure, right, from online retailers, and it looked like the face of retail was changing, well, even more now so. How shall Macy's respond to the challenges ahead of it? So the case study, just let me tell you, comes in sort of two parts, okay? The first part of the case study is, as you digest the content in chapter 15 of the text, you will be asked in the case to run some numbers, some calculations. The calculations won't require any more arithmetic than add and subtract, multiply and divide. Okay, that's about as far as it goes. And so it's pretty straightforward running those numbers. And then the case will bring your attention to a new strategic initiative that Macy's sort of publicly declared in February of 2020, just before the pandemic lockdown, on how they were going to change their business strategy to arise out of the challenge that retail is facing. So the question to you is, after running the numbers in the case study, how do you think this new Polaris strategy of Macy's is going to do in the next 3 to 5 years? So I want you to take a careful look at the case study, and of course, you've got a couple of weeks to complete it. And if you have questions, I want you to feel free to please reach out and ask. I want to make sure you really clearly understand everything that you're going to be asked to address in the case study in order to do that adequately. So don't hesitate to ask if you have questions after reading through the case study description. All righty? Well, that is our introduction to module number 12 on accounting. And so I hope you have a great time climbing into it. I hope it's of great interest. I know that several of you in the class are pursuing your accounting certificate, and so I know this will be right up your alley. So I hope you enjoy module number 12 on accounting. All righty? Take care. We'll see you in the next module. And if I don't get to say it before then, I hope every single one of you who is going to celebrate this Thanksgiving holiday, that you enjoy the time with loved ones, and that you have a great time during this holiday as well. Alrighty, take care.